Nice. Oh, goodness. Oh, gosh. Can I, like, rotate it? Is it possible? Without, like, messing it up? Oh, goodness. Okay. Well, that's not working too well. I wanted to stream in portrait, in landscape mode, but it's messing me up now. If anybody knows like setting stuff, please hit me up. I guess I'll just jump in because oh goodness, but this is weird. I don't like this. Much prefer to be able to like rotate the device. Hello everybody. First off, Republic of Neville Stan says hello. Sorbinia says hello. It's good to see you guys and thank you guys for liking the stream. RX says another day of hard work completed. Time for the news and discussion portion of the day. You know it, RX. We're jumping in. Eastern Valley says hello. Aradelk says the sound is lagged, I guess. Ooh, uh-oh. I hope everybody's okay. Let me know if the sound quality improves or gets worse. Not trying to be laggy. Maybe it was my Bluetooth. I just turned that off. Eastern Valley says hello. Ari says the sound is lagged. Shia of Imam Ali says Assalamu alaikum. Hello, it's good to see you. Assalamu alaikum, I guess. Elijah Wood says hello. Republic of Nautica says hello. Everybody's jumping in. I appreciate you guys being here. Oh gosh, I want to see if there's any way for me to. Ooh, Train Empire says hello. Hey, what's going on, guys? Definitely make sure to like the video if you guys are enjoying it, wanting to come hang out. I want to talk about a big thing today, but I'm trying to. I guess I'm gonna hide the chat for right now, just so that I can get this balanced and start talking. The biggest thing that I wanted to focus on today, besides my voice just cracking there and making me sound like I'm 14 years old, is that there is a paradox that I have been dealing with in micronationalism, and I've seen plenty of other micronations dealing with for a long time. It's something that every time I see a micronation develop, they run into the same problem. I have not yet seen any micronation solve this problem. So this is a big, big issue, and I really want to discuss your thoughts on it because I have constantly been developing my theories on why it exists and how to overcome it as a community. This is something that's urgent to micronationalist survival and prospering. So first off, this paradox seems to be fundamental to micronations. All micronations are going to deal with it because of what micronations are. Now, this paradox is essentially the idea that you want to develop something. You want to start your own country because you feel like you have the right ideas to put in place to make the change happen, to develop the world that you want to see. You know, you have your ideas, you want to put them into place. That's great. So you go out and you start trying to recruit people. But a lot of the people who you are going to be attracting, a lot of the people who are going to want to listen to what you have to say, are going to be people who have the same idea in mind. When you say, hey, I have this great idea, I want to start a country, I think we should be able to do that, and these are my ideas for how to make a better future for us. The people who are going to tune into that are probably people who have their own ideas about what they want their future to be like and what they would like to see happen. So even if you have very similar views on that, you agree on a lot of things, most of the time that doesn't make the person who's talking to you say, oh, wow, I want to join your thing. It makes them say, oh, wow, I want to start my own thing. And so that's what the sphere of micronationalism has become in a lot of aspects. And while that is something that seems to be a natural tendency for people, it's also something that can be very concerning for us as we continue to develop and grow our nations because it doesn't allow for a lot of community cohesion. Everybody's isolated. Everybody's in their own little bubble of this is what I want to do, this is how I want to develop. And especially because we are micronations and it's this idea of national sovereignty, it's this idea of creating your own unique independent thing, people have very large concerns about their own rights and abilities to do that. People feel like they need to be able to expand on their own rights. People feel like they want to be able to define and secure their ability to continue their nation. And so they are looking for every avenue that they can to continue to grow and expand what it means to develop a nation. They really, really want to make this thing happen with all their heart and soul. But on the flip side, they aren't willing to give to other groups who are wanting to do that because they're trying to keep these things for themselves. They're trying to say, okay, how do I get my nation to grow larger? How do I get more people to recognize my nation over other nations? How do I get my face at the top of the leaderboard, at the top of the Twitter analytics, at the top of the YouTube analytics, whatever it is. How do I get myself out there and my nation out there more so than these others? How do I show people that my ideas are the right ideas versus other people's ideas? How do I show them that I'm the micronation that's going to make it? I'm the serious one. I'm the most developed or the most this and that and whatever. And that becomes a huge problem because it's holding us all back. When we're all separating from each other because we're worried about getting too close, when we're trying to do these things that keep each other at arm's distance, we're creating a disadvantage across the board for everybody. And so this is the paradox. It's the helping paradox. It's the support paradox. The concept of you want as much support as you can get, but you are not willing to give as much support as you can possibly give because that decreases your ability to grow. The more time you spend focusing on someone else and helping them grow, the less time you have to focus on your own growth, and vice versa. So it leaves everybody at odds with each other. And this is a fundamental setup to the nature of a micronation because you have to make sure that you survive first. Now, in a human sense, when we're talking about just everyday people, this happens the same way, but we end up developing societies based on niches. So we say, hey, we all need food to eat, we all need certain base things. We can get individuals to work on those things together. And so, one person can be a farmer, and one person can be a blacksmith, and one person can purify water, and one person can fish, and, so on and so forth. And that allows for the development of a society that works together, that puts all of this initial setup of being at odds with each other into helpful action, into creating an environment where people can thrive. And this is something that micronationalism isn't really able to do as well because of the niche nature of it, I think. And so there's a lot of problems with that. It's really, really difficult. But as we continue to talk about it, I want to read a couple of comments just on what we've talked about so far, and then I want to jump further into what everybody's thinking. So first off, thank you everybody for joining. It's good to see you. We got 15 viewers, 6 likes. Thank you guys for liking. And if you enjoyed the conversation so far, please continue to like. I also want to just check in because I'm worried about that lag. Somebody said there's audio lag, and I hope it's not too bad. Ooh, Gorth said, hey, P, long time no see. Good to see you, Gorth. Also, thank you guys for liking. Nautica says, ooh, when will my flag be changed on the website? That's a great question. I'll have to hit you up. I haven't been doing anything with the micronational map for a while because I've been just focused on other stuff. Alicia Von Doom, Empress Von Doom is joining us. It's great to see you. Empress Von Doom is from the Empire of Draconia, the Draconian Empire, and we are super happy to see them joining us here. They're good friends of ours, and I'm glad to see everybody. So again, thank you guys for liking and supporting. I'm curious to hear Empress Alicia's thoughts on this, or Emperor Von Doom, if he's there, as well as everybody else, because the concept of this sharing problem, so to speak, is a big difficulty, and it's something that is long lasting in micronationalism, micronations at all scales, whether they're, just focusing on developing on the internet, whether they're people who are building things and, running industries in real life. All of these still face the same constraints. And, there are trade networks that are attempted to be developed. There are, small community gatherings that are attempted to be had, but they still don't seem to fully overcome that. It seems like there's still a lot of resistance because of the same nature of that. And it can even lead to infighting. It can also lead to issues like, for example, YAMOs. When we talk about yet another micronational organization, people who say, the way that I'm going to fix micronations is by getting a whole bunch of micronations together and having them all agree on stuff. So then, stuff starts to work. It starts to become a problem because they don't actually fix that issue. So the reason that YAMOs, the micronational organizations, are made fun of or looked down upon are because people feel like they don't actually provide more tangible benefit to the micronations that are involved than they could just by themselves. It would be more beneficial in most cases for those micronations to have taken the time they spent developing that organization and just developed the ability of their micronation to progress to some extent in its own right, in its own goals, which it can do by itself. And so that's part of this huge dilemma. And people make fun of YAMOs because I think of this underlying fundamental issue that hits on a lot of points in micronationalism: economics, foreign policy, just individual technological, economic, cultural development for these nations. internal politics, and none of it has been solved thus far. And so I think this is absolutely ridiculous. Shia of Imam Ali says, I am a leader of the United Islamic Caliphate. I'm 15 years old and my name is Hassan. It's great to meet you, Hassan. I hope you're doing well and I hope you're able to find some value out of this video. We're a group of micronationalists. We're all talking about the concept of developing nations, and I personally use this channel, the Empire of Aeternia channel, to document myself and our fellow citizens in Aeternia, building and developing what we can to progress the empire. So I'm learning every day and I'm trying to move forward with that. And I like to try and show that to you all and, bring you my questions and my curiosities about how to make things better and what we can do about things. And so I really love learning from the community, and I appreciate you guys being here. Torrance joined us. It's good to see you, Torrance. I know I haven't reached out to you in a couple days. I need to reach out to you again. I hope you're feeling better. I hope you're doing well. Arik says, earn your Aeternian citizenship today. Start the collective drive, or more simply said, apes together strong, planet of the apes. I love it, Arik. Yes, absolutely. So if you guys do want to have an Aeternian citizenship or look into that, we do have a Discord channel right now. We also have our website at eternianempire.wixsite.com/Imperial Market. And you can get a citizenship application from the front page. So I appreciate that. The English Times, ooh, we got a newspaper with us, says micronationalism attracts highly creative people, not patriotic people. I think it really depends, honestly. There are some people who are like really strong nationalists in micronationalism. The concept that like they really believe in this concept of a nation, not just in the way that general micronationalists believe in it, a group of people coming together with a common identity, but more so in like an authoritarian, right-wing, almost fascist sense, where they really believe in this concept of like superior nations. And, especially a lot of them tend to have like the Western ideal is like the best sort of mindset, and are also generally very militaristic micronations. Those guys are concerning. So yeah, sometimes they're very patriotic people who join micronationalism, but not in a good way at all. Torrance said, what have we talked about? We're talking about the sharing paradox, which is a big issue in micronationalism that I've talked about before on the channel, but I've never seen anybody come up with a valid solution for it. I'm still working on my own, so don't feel bad about that. It's a question, it's a philosophical question in micronationalism to ponder, and the way that you try and tackle it is ultimately going to decide the route that your micronation takes. Everybody's going to go about it differently. Everybody's going to think that one thing or another thing is more important for their micronation to focus on, but ultimately everybody runs into this problem. So I think it's a great standard of measure for how we actually go about developing our nations and what strengths and weaknesses different nations have by their attempts to overcome this. Elijah says, I'm not noticing any lag. Hey, I appreciate it. I'm glad to hear it. Also, we have 14 viewers and 9 likes right now. Because of those 9 likes, there are 14 people actively watching the stream. And the more likes that we get, the more people that absolutely just flood into the stream. So thank you guys for helping us out. And I can't wait to continue growing our community and getting more people into this conversation, because we can fix this problem. This is something that isn't impossible to solve. It just takes a number of micronations continuing to push the bounds of what is possible and connecting together to find common sense solutions to these problems, so that eventually we do have tangible ways forward. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be something that's quick. It's going to take potentially years, decades to see fully developed into cohesive solutions. But these are things that can start today. These are things that can have meaningful, substantial steps taken and profit made because of the advancement that we make potentially this year on it. English Times says, then each house can be, ooh, hold up. Therefore, English Times said, therefore, for a micronation to grow, it should not emphasize its own branding and ideas. Rather, it should push itself as a confederation of houses. Then each house can build their own branding and values as a part of a greater whole. That's pretty cool. That's interesting. So it seems like the concept of houses that you're talking about is this concept of like all these individual groups um, uh, should have individual houses. It should be people who are individuals and their like family and friends consider themselves a part of one house, like a bannerman for a king, right? A king in medieval times may have had multiple different little territories that they ruled over, and each one would have a bannerman. Each one would have a specific family that ruled over the area, like a lord, and then they would have all of these different people that were under their banner, their bannermen. And so if you have all of these different houses, like you're talking about, they would all come together to represent that confederation. The Empire of Eternia has a term called houses that we use, but it's a little bit different. Our houses are the structure of our government, and each individual house is not the family name of somebody who owns a specific section of Eternia or something. Rather, these houses are breakdowns of everyday needs and necessities for the Empire of Eternia. It is, as I said previously, the way our government's structured. So we have the House of Treasure, for example, which handles our economics, handles our business concerns. We have the House of Others, which deals with foreign policy, which deals with internal culture stuff. Then there's continual development from there. But those houses, we like to structure a little bit differently because it does not create an adversarial position. I think one of the issues with having confederations and having larger democratic sections in micronations can sometimes be that creates adversarial tension. That creates a drive for people to get to the top of the ladder, so to speak, or to try and take control of the reins, which isn't a bad thing. It can lead to a lot of progress. It can lead to a lot of innovation with all of these people who, like you said, are already very creative or already very inspiring, all trying to be their absolute best so that they can reach the top of the socioeconomic ladder in your nation. However, when you're a group of 5 people, 10 people, that can become very catastrophic very quickly, because if all of your development relies on these 10 people, all working their hardest at their individual thing, and then one of them decides that they can get more power by attacking the others instead of assisting, then you have this dynamic where people are constantly trying to sabotage each other, and it can really delay progress. So that's, again, just you have brought an interesting and valid solution to this problem. And it's something that many micronations, I assume, like yourself, are working on. There are plenty of democratic micronations who say the way through that problem, the way through that paradox, is democracy, is some sort of confederation of ideas. And micronational organizations sometimes have that same tint as well, saying, well, we shouldn't be trying to get everybody in line. We shouldn't be trying to, tell everybody that this is the way forward specifically. Rather, we should let everybody kind of come together, set their own terms, and work together through that. So again, pros and cons to those ideas, but that is definitely a valid solution. I'm curious to see how that works for your nation. Sorbinia says, hey, my flag needs an update too. Also, would you be interested in a possible trade agreement in the future? I would love that, Sorbinia. Hit me up. Also, if you filled out a form for it, for the flag change on the Imperial Market on our website, please let me know. And I'll get to it. Like I said, I haven't checked the micronational map forms in a minute, so I'll have to go back and do that pretty soon. But thank you guys for your patience. 15 viewers, 15 likes. Y'all are killing it. Y'all are pulling more people into the convo. Republic of Hera says, I'm the Prime Minister of Hera. Okay, so another democratic micronation, potentially going that route that the English Times said. Torrent said, English Times, what about tribes? Torrance, I feel like tribes are very similar, very democratic, very, loose social construct kind of values. Union of Allied Soviet Republics. I saw you in our Discord. It's good to see you. And you were in the last live stream. I appreciate it. So what's up with the flags on the website, TBH? I didn't know there was a website. There sure is. Again, eternianempire.wixsite.com. If you Google the Empire of Eternia, it should be one of the first links. It's a Wix website. Republic of Nautica said the Aeternia Empire website. Yep. Eastern Valley says, I'm trying to figure out how to be Hellenic, and maybe I could create a Hellenic democratic micronation. Hit me up about what Hellenism is, or Hellenic micronations are. Ali says, we made a union of Islamic micronations in the Middle East, one common currency and easier trade. Hey, again, it seems like a lot of people are going the we need the democracies route. So I'm curious to see how that works out. A lot of micronations do that, and I think it leads to more popularity because it does try to pull people together under common values, but I think those are a lot of the time short-lived. So if you are going that route, what is your glue? What is the thing that actually keeps your micronation in that interest and holds the other micronations supporting it, again, in that same interest wheel? One of the things that Ali brought up, which I think was great, Shia Imam Ali brought up, is he said, there's a common currency, easier trade. So that helps. Again, I think that can be beneficial, but it's also not too difficult for nations to create their own currency. And I don't think it'd be too difficult to trade between currencies. So I'm curious if that's enough glue. I'm curious if that'll hold your bindings there. Ari says, Eastern Valley, get your citizens and make a Google form for voting. Hope that helps. Yeah, absolutely. Republic of Paris says, how are you? How is your nation doing? Aeternia is doing well. If you haven't seen our last video, please go and check that one out. It didn't do as well as our previous video, and it's on a niche topic. It's on us upgrading our can crusher. We have a hand can crusher for our metals refining industry and our metals casting industry. But that is something that, I put a good bit of time into the video. I tried to make it more interesting. We even have a new intro. So if you like the intro, let me know. But at some point, if you guys can check that video out, it's our newest one about upgrading our can crusher. Let me know, because I'm really, really curious to see what people think about that. It's a style that I'm trying to get more and more into, but I need continued advice on it. So please let me know. 19 viewers, 16 likes. We're about to hit 20 viewers. That's, I think, almost near the maximum amount of viewers we've ever had at one time on the stream. I think the max has been 24 or 25. So if we can get up there, we're blowing it away. Torrance Kingman says nationalism does not equal ethnocentric fascism. 100%. I completely agree with that. But I will say nationalism, especially when you start to look at it through a more and more right-wing lens, it inches closer. You know what I mean? It's a similar way to saying, not every dog is a Dalmatian. You're 100% right. But if you have a dog, they're closer to a Dalmatian than a rabbit is. You're inching up there. It's not the same thing. You're right, but it gets closer and closer the more you niche down into it. Barack Gunduz retracted his message. It's good to see you, Barack. Union of Allied Soviet Republics, always messing up that name. 21 viewers, 17 likes. Thank you guys for the likes. Y'all are pulling all these people in right now. Y'all are the ones who are making this huge conversation happen, because we're trying to solve this problem. I appreciate y'all putting sincere effort into making a change in micronationalism. UASR said, I would say my nation is somewhat patriotic. Okay, I see you. Eastern Valley said, I create a micronation that's for Hellenistic pagans. Oh, interesting. It's like a religious thing. Hit me up about that. UASR said, hey, Krognar. Krognar? Who's Krognar? Hold up. UASR says, I know someone who has done that in Eastern Valley. Zoroastrian and Republic says, hello, you're definitely a religion. Hit me up with that. How are you guys? I also don't think I've seen you before on the channel. My name's AP. This is the Empire of Aeternia channel. We are discussing the growth and creation of the Empire of Aeternia, as well as, we've been going for 6 years now. But in general, we're also talking about the development of micronationalism, and in particular this paradox that nobody can seem to solve. It's always a hurdle for micronations. So what are we doing about it? 22 viewers, 18 likes. Thank you guys. We're getting up to that channel history limit. We're starting to break records here. Hera says, hello, how are you? I'm doing well. I hope you're doing well. Michael Ryan said, hi, AP. Hi, Michael Ryan. I haven't seen you in a minute. Zoroastrian Republic says, I'm great. Just finished one of my daily prayers. How do prayers in Zoroastrianism work? Because I know it's a predecessor to Christianity, Judaism, Islam, stuff like that. Hit me up. You say you're in a golden age. What does that mean? And do you feel like you've solved this paradox that we're talking about? Christian says, housing is a universal right under welfare, one of the 8 guarantees of the empire. Hey, very cool. Christian chiming in. Christian, it's good to see you. Oh goodness, I hope I don't mess it up. I want to say it's the Republic of Primario, but it could be the Empire of Primario. It may be the kingdom. I may be goofing it. Primario, I'm just gonna say. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. Again, I've seen it in text and in emails. I haven't had to pronounce it before, so please forgive me. But Christian from Primario, discussing some of their concepts. They have these guarantees, these 8 guarantees of the empire. They've told me a little bit of, you said empire. I don't know why I'm talking about republics and kingdoms. You said empire. Okay, so they have these 8 guarantees of their empire. That's particularly interesting, and I want to learn more about that. I think that's a potential solution. You know what I mean? At least on an individualistic scale, the more you can give to your citizens, the more you can actually supply them with value, like jobs, like housing, like transportation, things like that. Even just, hey, we give you groceries every once in a while. We plant vegetables and you get some of the vegetables every month or whatever, every year when we get a harvest. That helps people stick with you. That gives people an incentive to continue to work with you and shows them opportunity for growth as you grow. So there's certainly something to be said for solving that problem of like different interests within a micronation, which is why it's not as much of a paradox for individual micronations when you're looking at the internal politics of a micronation. But when you're talking about these micronations that are, you know, dealing with each other, when you're talking about how micronations work together, that can become more of a paradox and that can become sort of a strenuous thing. It's not that you can't do it, but it becomes harder. Um, Republic of Hera says, Republic of Eternia, how is your nation doing? It's the Prime Minister of Hera. We are the Empire of Eternia. We are not a republic. We don't hold democratic values. As of right now, I'm the Emperor and I have 100%, law of the land, so to say. I make all of the decisions. But that being the case, we're doing well. I hope you're doing well. And we are continuing to try and upgrade and develop our empire. Like I said, go check out that previous video if you want to know. We're at 23 viewers. We're starting to hit the ceiling. I forget exactly what that ceiling is, but YouTube will let me know when we pass it. We're getting up there, so thank you guys. Also, this helps a ton with our watch time. We've been trying to get monetization for the past like 2 or 3 years. It is when we started to get close to it. So you guys actively pushing us up to this 25, us hanging out for like an hour is going to do an incredible amount for our watch time. It's also going to let the video live longer in people's recommendations. So thank you guys. From the bottom of my heart, it means a lot. UASR says, I would say our nation was built property by property of supporters in a way just like a united community of common ideas. That's cool. So you're saying, effectively, I got my friends, family members to agree that their property is a part of my nation, and then you kept moving from there. That's a perfectly sound way to do that, and I think there are a number of micronations who, in fact, I'd say most micronations do things that way because it's an easy way to gain land, which means you can claim a larger territory size. It also means you can claim a larger population without having to go out and purchase territory for the express ability of developing there. But then it means that your actual claimed territory is somewhat in your hands and somewhat not. There's a limit to what you can do. Whereas if you do truly own all of the property that you claim 100% outright, and it is for that express purpose, you have a lot more that you can build and develop there. Republic of Unity says, we solved that. We solved the paradox. There's no paradox. Ha! What's your thing, Unity? What you about? Zoroastrian Republic says, my nation was founded 10 years ago in Erbil, Iraq, Kurdistan. It has since gained territory in the US, UK, Italy, and France. That's impressive. How'd you make the contacts? First off, congratulations. How'd you make the contacts? How'd you go about developing it? Tell us about it. Tell us about your successes. Hera says hi. Hello, Hera. Republic of Unity says, we need to talk about our trade, AP. Hit me up, Unity. Have we talked on Discord? Have we talked on email? Please hit us up, especially if you've solved the problem of this sharing paradox of micronationalism. Please hit me up. English Times says, are you a fan of He-Man and the Masters of the Universe? I will say I'm not in particular, but I found out after the creation of Aeternia that the He-Man universe is called Aeternia, like, but with an E. It's pretty interesting. Yeah, we're very similarly named, and I would suppose in a way we have appreciation for them, although that's not where we got our name. Christian Chio says, I don't believe that every person should have a 5-bedroom villa in the country for themselves, but I believe every person, every family, every veteran citizen should have a roof over their heads. And I completely agree with that. That's one of the biggest goals, long-term goals for the Empire of Eternia, is to be able to provide free housing for its citizens. That's something that's going to take a while. That's something we're trying to get for ourselves right now. We're trying to develop this RV on the land so that we can have a place to sleep, place to go to the bathroom and wash ourselves, that is out on this property in Vitae, our territory, that we purchased outright for exclusive use in the Empire. And that eventually, once we have that set up and we can start developing a house, first off, 26 viewers. Come on, guys. You guys are killing it. We have 19 likes, 26 viewers. First off, I know some of you didn't like, so let's hit that like button so that we can jump more people in this conversation. If we can get 30, I'm probably just gonna pass out from excitement. So I appreciate it. But also, we're trying to get that stuff set up on Vitae right now. We're trying to get our land developed so that we can have people live there for free. That's one of our big pitches for our nation is, hey, you can go here and we can have something for you ready to go, so long as we vet you properly and we know that our values align. We want to offer that to people in our community because there's a large homeless population near where we live. There are a lot of people who are really struggling, and I myself have faced similar struggles. I'm certainly not the worst off in the world, and I would never claim to be, but I know what economic struggle looks like. I know what it's like to be on harder times. So by all means, a big part of my passion for Eternia comes from wanting to make sure that people don't feel like their lives are insecure. Like if they, can't get to work on time because their car break down, they don't have a car, or if they feel like, they can't buy groceries for the night, or they can't pay their rent because they're a little bit short, that their lives just going to fall apart in front of them. So we need to do something to change that, and that's a big part of Eternia. So I'm glad to see that Primario is very similar. Um, UASR says, I think the USAR is primarily focused on a traditional society, but science is also one of the main things we focus on. Very cool. Very similar. I'm not sure about a traditional society for Eternia because we are trying to develop something unique. So our culture is, being created at the moment. So in a certain sense, we are developing our traditions, but we don't have a traditional society in that sense. We are actively pushing science for sure. That's the way forward in our opinion. Christian Cho says, I believe in empire without imperialism. I agree. Imperialism is a big and dangerous thing, especially in the last several hundred years. But even before that, it was rough. Republic of Paris says, how should I grow my micronation? Can you give me some tips? Yes, that's what we're talking about today. First off, if you haven't read these comments, go through and read these comments. If you haven't checked out our series on how to micronation, we have a playlist called How to Micronation. We have a whole bunch of clips and videos that specifically walk you through these are different parts from creating your micronation, naming it, economics. We have a micronational economics series, which is something people like on here. So definitely go check all that out. But also read some of these comments because what we're talking about right now hits at the core of micronationalism. It's philosophy for micronationalists. So how you decide you're going to answer some of these questions, some of these things we're talking about, will really make a difference as to what your micronation becomes, who you want to be, and what you want your nation to develop into. It's ultimately how you see the future of your life and what you hope the future of humanity is like. So, that's what you're trying to envision and push for. And so your steps, your every moment of your development needs to be pushing toward that, or it could divert you away from it. And so there will be lessons you learn that'll change your perspective on things and change the direction you go. But for the most part, you want to try and keep things as consistent as possible so that people understand what you're trying to do and so that you have the clearest path forward possible for the most success. For the most likely success. Christian said, oops, almost forgot to like. Thank you, Christian. Now we're up to 23 viewers, 22 likes, and you guys made that happen. So thank you. UASR says, we are a leader in UEM, United Earth Micronations. It's a union of 12 nations. It's been up for half a year, and so far, so good. I'll say that's pretty impressive. There are some micronations who last like 2 months, and then they disappear from the face of the planet. You never hear from them again. Things like, oh gosh, um, United Micronations. There was like and stuff. GUM. There was Grand Unified Micronational. There was multiple who lasted for years, like 5, 6 years, and then fell apart, or something happened to them, or they changed leadership, and so now they're very different. And so I'm curious to learn about some of these. There's some people in these comments right now who I'm sure have ties to them, who either did and they left, or they fell apart, or they just haven't really kept up with it. Let me know. Let me know what's happening to these organizations because they are a potential solution for this paradox, the concept that these micronations have trouble working together, and it's based on their nature. It's based on wanting to grow the best you can and be the biggest you can, even though that seems like it would lead toward sharing and helping. it can cause competition and can cause stress and strain between nations. So um, talking about that is really interesting, and I think trying to solve that as, you know, a micronational organization is a solution, but it seems like one that's regularly poked fun at and something that's not normally taken as a very likely candidate for a wide-ranging solution. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I want to keep updates on those so that we know, hey, did it work out for them? Dominion of the Asmore Federation says the can crushing industry for micronation is a good idea. I appreciate it. We've also expanded significantly on that. We now have a large furnace where we melt aluminum, copper. We can even do gold and silver, stuff like that. We can do a lot now. We're doing brass as well. And we're now casting them. So we're actually making objects. In our most recent video, at the end of it, we also show off our treasury. So that's one of the big things that I think people didn't get from that video, which I'm so heartbroken about. That video, our can crushing video, also at the end of it, it's about halfway through or a little more, shows off everything we have in our treasury so far, not as far as imperial notes, but as far as metals. So our physical like items of treasure, bars of aluminum, our copper collection so far, and our brass collection and aluminum bronze collection is effectively on there. It's a small amount right now, but it's a lot more than we've ever had. It's, you know, now 12, 15 pounds of metal. So we're starting to get up to bigger and bigger quantities, and it's starting to look cooler. Like it's starting to look like an actual hoard of treasure, which is kind of cool. Like we stacked up our aluminum bricks, and they're like, we made a little pyramid with them. It's really cool, and I love it. I thought it was a super cool scene. Let me know what you guys think. Again, I kind of just walk through the pieces and kind of show you what we did and how we did it. But let me know. And again, later on, go check that video out because I want it to get more views. It's at like 80 something views. Our video before that did like 200 something views. So I'd love to get that boosted up and see what we can do there. Um, Theridin Broadcasting Network says, hello there. Hey, Theridin, it's good to see you. You also have a media. Like, tell me about that. Are you guys trying to start like a media company? Are you trying to just promote your nation? Like, what's it about? Torrance says, Nautica, glorious. Yeah, it's good to see you, Nautica. And Torrance definitely seems to be a fan. UASR says, Nautica, we should hold some talks. I see you hold very similar views about agricultural society. Hit me up on Instagram. Hey, we're making connections already. That's one of the things I love about this channel. It's hard for micronations one-on-one to like make connections and find other micronations that first off will even reach out to you. There are plenty of times, especially when I started out, where I'd email 20, 30 micronations and try and see if they would reach out to me, and a lot of them just wouldn't, either because they're defunct and they don't exist anymore, or because, you know, I just wasn't worth their time or whatever. So having a place like this where in a live stream everybody can be hanging out and messaging and talking and sharing their ideas means that this is a proving ground for those micronations, for those ideas. And so there's a ton of collaboration that can happen, even just from saying, hey, I like your thing, hit me up. And I really appreciate that. I've seen like, you know, unions and federations and different stuff come about because of this chat, and this is incredible. We have made an impact on micronational society, and it's thanks to you guys. Torrance says, great idea, Nautica. Kingmania wants tokenized currency, wants to tokenize and use commodities as currencies. Very cool. Manu says, hi, what did I miss? Hey, it's Manu. Everybody, if you don't know Manu, he's been a big supporter of the channel for a long time, and he's trying to create Hoot Hour for us, which will potentially be a feature on the channel. So, talking about news. We're talking about the paradox that effectively micronations all want to grow as big as they can, so that should promote them working together. But the more time that you spend working together, the more time it takes away from your nation's direct development, because you're having to give it to the development of another nation or a group of nations. And so there's this paradox in micronationalism where you should want to help as much as you can, but you need to grow as much as you can. So that sometimes leads to conflicts with nations, where a lot of the time we spend more energy spinning our wheels and arguing with each other, or, you know, causing problems, rather than actually trying to work together and develop solutions. It's also what makes micronational organizations, what makes different community opportunities and organizations fall apart so quickly, trade networks, things like that. It's because everybody's wanting to support each other, but always in the back of their mind, they have to be watching out for what's best for them and what's best for the development of their nation. And so it can be a big, big struggle for micronations to let go of some of that independence because it's foundational to what micronations are. So I'm curious to see what your thoughts are, Manu, too. Manu always has great takes. Ari says, we were briefly talking about starting a micronation. Yes. Ari says, AP is mainly responding to comments right now. Yeah, but I'm trying to keep the conversation on track. Like, we're jumping around a little. Unity said, food, water, and shelter is the rights in our nation. Those are Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's important. Zoroastrian Republic says, there was never a division within my micronation. We all have a common goal of preserving and protecting Zoroastrian culture and religion. That's interesting. So, since that's such an old religion, though, like, how many people are actively practicing Zoroastrians? Is that mandatory in your nation? And if so, how many were practicing active Zoroastrians before they joined you? UASR says, oh, hey, Asmore. Hey, very cool. Also, what's up, Asmore? Republic of Nadia says, God, the stream grew fast. It did. Thank you, guys. Y'all helped to blow it up. We're going to keep blowing it up for the next hour plus. I say the next hour plus. For the next 40 minutes. Zoroastrian says, we've donated thousands of euros to our brothers and sisters in Iraq, Iran, and other parts of the world. That's awesome. Zoroastrian Republic, that's probably incredibly helpful to those people. Micronationalism is also a huge conduit for charity. So a lot of micronations specifically go out of their way to do charity work, and that is incredible. That's a really big positive from our community. UASR says, wow, 23 people. We hit 26 at one point, and I was about to freak. We're at 25 right now. Oh my goodness, we're close. First off, thank you guys for liking, thank you guys for supporting and hanging out in the stream. Every minute that you guys spend in the stream means that right now we get 25, now 26 minutes of watch time. So you guys staying in the chat, hanging out for like an hour or two, this is incredible. We can get a large amount of watch time hours just from this, and then that means that our channel can hit monetization within the year. So you guys are helping our economy to grow, our nation to grow, and you guys are supporting us incredibly. I'm lucky to have you here, and I appreciate you supporting this conversation. Aiden says, my country is Quaggington. Interesting. Quaggington is a unique name. Is it named after Quagmire from Family Guy? Is it named after the concept of a quagmire, like a difficult, confusing dilemma? Zoroastrian Republic says, we have developed it through AI technology and programming. Developed what? Preserving and protecting Zoroastrian culture and religion through AI technology and programming. That's impressive. How'd you do that? Is like free AI software? Are you like good at programming? What happened? Asmore says, how are you doing, UASR? Fancy seeing you here. Hey, they're friends. See, we have friends in the chat. Nautica says, oh, PTW, I just got my first belt in karate today, along with many people in my militia. Hey, congrats. I'm always skeptical when people say they have militias or armies in micronationalism, because people can take that the wrong way. I'm not a big proponent of militarism or of, like, micronations arming themselves, but I'm glad to see that you got a cool karate belt. You are upping your skills as an individual and as a micronationalist. Sarvenius is the problem with everyone wants to rule their own micronation and not be a part of one instead. I completely agree, Sarvenia. We made a whole video about that. Why you should join, why you shouldn't start a micronation, why you should watch this before you start a micronation, stuff like that. They were all talking about the concept that, and it touches on this paradox. That problem is a part of this paradox where people want to do their own thing so much and they want to hold their own independence and freedom so much that in order to gain expanded freedoms, they won't give up a little bit. They won't make any compromises because they feel like compromising is the same thing as losing your freedoms, which isn't necessarily the case at all. People can leave micronations at any time they want because none of these micronations can hold you at gunpoint and force you to stay there. So that being the case, micronationalism, even for non-democratic micronations, is a very democratic concept. It is the concept that at any point you can come into a micronation so long as they accept you as a citizen, and you can work there and develop there and do things there. And at any point you're unhappy with that, you can leave. You can say, I don't care about y'all anymore. I'm out. I'm done. Bye. Thanks for the fun. And that's it. So if you believe in something and you want to see something expand, especially if you think it's got a good shot, join it. go and support it. Go and put your weight behind it. Because at best case scenario, you may significantly elevate something and you may reach statuses that you couldn't imagine at this point, even just as like someone helping the micronation. If the micronation is the biggest one in the world and you were like one of the ones who propped it up, it would do a significant boost to your personal clout as well as your abilities in micronationalism, versus, just developing your own and attempting to go through the struggle. But even if you don't, even if you say, the worst case scenario, you leave that micronation and then you've still made connections, you've still grown as a person, you've still learned a lot of things. So there's a lot of problems with that, but that falls into this paradox. Torrance Kingdom says free. And then he says freedom is greater than free. See, I feel like a lot of people really that's the same concept. Is people really niching down on this is what independence means, and this is what freedom means, and so they really push back against anybody trying to develop unions or develop collective efforts. Aiden says, "I'm the 21st like." Hey, thank you, Aiden. You helped to boost us up. I appreciate you. That means the world to me. Whoever was the 22nd like too, because we got 22 now. Thank you so much. Aiden, you helped to boost us into the 24 viewers now, 23 viewers now. And as well, whoever the 22nd was, shout out to y'all. Y'all are both very cool people, as well as everybody else who liked before, but they were the most recent, so they get the shout out too. Asmore says, USR says, Asmore, we're doing good, just chilling out in the stream. Asmore says, good to see you interacting with the world. Yeah, a lot of micronations will come in and out, and, it's great when people come back in and you can see their revived interest in micronationalism. Somebody messaged me about that the other day, and it really touched my heart. Torrent says, Aeternia will buy into the Kingmania project. Aeternia will be prosperous. We cannot think small. Micronations can have a million, if not billion-dollar economy. I agree. First off, I'm excited to see what Kingmania does, and I hope it's something that's worthwhile for us to invest in. But even if not, we're still going to be friends. I'm still going to be happy to talk to you about stuff, and I'm still going to be happy to invest and support in any way I can. So yeah, absolutely. I'm excited to see it. I think it's going to be a real valuable endeavor. Republican Unity says, Council holds the power, but you can only get endorsed by the citizens. Each seat is 1 year, and Speaker seat is only there for peacekeeping, and it's in terms of 6 months. Oh, you're describing like how your nation is set up. That's pretty cool, Unity. It sounds very united. I mean, democracies, of course, generally try to be, but it's interesting. Do you guys have parties? How do you feel like parties affect stuff? These are big questions. Aiden says, I added my microphone to Google Maps. I added my micronation to Google Maps. Literally, you can do it for free, 100%. Christian says, I'm glad you've decided to bring up this paradox that affects so many micronations, because in the 4.5 years of Primaria's existence, I feel like we are the Byzantine Empire during the year 1400 CE. Oh, absolutely, 100%. And that's something that's very hard. You talk to a lot of micronations and you try and find some common ground, and people are so vastly different. Talking about the concept as something, comparable to like the Byzantine Empire or something is really interesting, because during that time there were also plenty of like tribes and warring factions around that area that had vastly different ideas and beliefs and cultures and heritages and ways of doing things, ways of trade, ways of war. And so when you're talking about those kinds of eras, I think it hits definitely on the concept of modern micronationalism, because we're all these very vast groups of people. We're all thinking that our way is going to be the way to break through. And when any nation starts to become more successful, they get a lot of copycats. They get a lot of people saying, that's the quickest way to do it. We got to do that. We got to change to make our thing like their thing so we can be successful. And so cultures become more and more narrow, and things start to look more and more homogenous, more and more the same. But back in those days, everything was very different, because everybody had a very different way of thinking they were going to reach success. And so that's the same thing that's happening right now. I think fortunately we have the opportunity now to have more varied success and to have different ways be proven as opportunistic and proven as something that allows great successes to occur. But nonetheless, we're still definitely in this very chaotic situation right now. Eastern Valley says Hellenism is the revival of ancient Greek religion. Oh, interesting. a lot of religious micronations in here these days. I didn't know about all this. Back in my day, back in the old times, there were some micronations that were religious, but there weren't as many. I feel like I could be wrong, but I feel like that's like a newer thing. Hit me up with that. Aiden says just click on a random area in Google Maps. Hey, he's telling us how to do Google Maps stuff. Asmore says tricks to have a working micro government while being the only one in the micronation. Oh, that's actually a good point. Having a working government while you're the only person in your micronation is very hard because it's easy, but it's hard. It's easy because you're the only one that you have to depend on. You're the only one that you have to answer to. And so you determine how things go forward. But that can also be really difficult because in that way, you shouldn't really focus on governing as much, right? Like you should be enacting projects, you should be doing things, but governance seems like it has, the word has like nuance to it. You when you're governing something, you really want to make sure that you're doing it the right way. It seems like you're managing resources. And when you first start out, when it's just you may not have a lot of resources to manage. You don't have people to manage, for example. So that's something that really, really changes the scenario a lot. And I think people take that for granted 100%. I think people will start a micronation by themselves with no people in it besides themselves, and they'll create 45 pages of laws and ideas and, philosophy about why they're doing what they're doing, which is perfectly fine. You can do that. That's part of your culture. That's a part of what you see as your perspective and how you're going to convince people of your nation's development. But then I think people stay there and they stay in that realm and that's what they focus on, which again can be fine if that's what you want to do. But then I feel like there are plenty of people who say, well, what do I do now? This is a huge problem. And I feel like that's where you start to hit into, this idea of, well, you're not really governing. You're trying to progress your nation, you're trying to develop it, but you shouldn't be thinking of it as much as I'm trying to govern right now. And you should be thinking more so, I'm trying to build right now. I'm trying to make something. I need to think through the plan and the process of getting from this size to this size to this size to this size over time, because otherwise you're limiting your growth. Eastern Valley says that too. Aiden says I declared war on Belgium. Can you help? No. What Belgium do to you? Hit me up. Is Belgium evil? Is Belgium evil these days? I didn't know. I want some chocolate. If you're fighting a whole war over there, can you send me chocolate? I think that'd be delicious, but I don't want like frag grenade pieces in it or something. Jesus. Therian Broadcasting Network says we just hit our 1-year anniversary this month. Congratulations, Therian Broadcasting Network. That's very cool. How do you feel being a year into micronationalism? Christian says, I was not previously aware that Hellenism included the ancient Greek paganism. That's generally fascinating. I agree. Genuinely fascinating. I agree. You generally think of like just the pantheon of Greek gods. USR says, I would like to say the biggest rival to UEM, not likely to an enemy state, but a sort of competitor would be UMEC versus UEM. How do you feel like they're different? Hit me up. Would they ever combine forces to become one major micronational organization? Like, why are they like competitive? And also that again feels like it falls under the paradox, right? There's like this one micronational organization that's like the best thing forward is for us all to like group together and pile our resources for success. And then there's this other group that gets started up and they're like, oh, the best way for us to succeed is to pile our resources together for success. But not with those guys, not with each other. Like, why is that the case? Why wouldn't, as soon as you find another micronational organization, you'd be like, let's combine them, let's make them a thing? Christian says, also Emperor AP, I was not, sorry, Christian, dropping my phone. He says, I was not aware until last night that Aeternia's national bird was the owl. Ours is the great horned owl. Oh, absolutely. The symbol for the House of Others is an owl, which is really, really cool. The symbol for the House of Treasure is a forge, but all of these symbols for our houses in our government are the symbol of the Empire of Aeternia, the arrow of progress on our flag, changed and manipulated in some way. So the House of Others was turned into an owl. The House of Treasure was turned into an arc furnace. And so it's pretty interesting. Zoroastrian Republic says we have our own media outlet, Zoroastrian Daily. It's about intermicronational events and news in the Republic. Hey, very cool. Michael says, I know Hellenism is related to ancient Greece, but nothing beyond that. I was the same way. I was like, what? What's Hellenism? In fact, I'll say I was more ignorant. I had heard of Hellenism before once it was described to me. Like, I was like, oh, I remember that. But when they first said it, I was like, I don't know what Hellenism is. Eastern Valley says, I believe in the great Greek gods like Zeus and Poseidon, Athena, and others, so I'm a Hellenist. Hey, very cool. Multiple Hellenists in the chat. Would you join the Hellenist Republic? How would that work? UASR Nautica says, I'll hit you up on that so I can get some good relations. Auric24 says, forming house names within an existing micronation should be more common. Um, Debatable. Again, that's one of those routes to improvement and development. But I'm curious to see if that's really if that's really the best case. Because again, it can lead to fracturing, just like the micronational organizations, where instead of you saying I'm getting a whole bunch of different micronations together and putting them into an organization, you're doing almost the reverse, where you're like, I'm taking my micronation, which is one whole thing, and I'm splitting it up between all these different people, so that they all have an incentive to develop more, but they also now all have an incentive to compete. So I guess the way you develop the intricacies of that system will really heavily depend on how successful it is, in my assumption. In my educated guess, I would say that's what's going to happen. If you let things kind of run wild, they will tend to run wild. If you have pretty tight reins on how that develops and how that works, you may be able to get some solid productivity out of it. And some interesting culture as well. Michael Ryan says, I don't nor ever have believed in micronational competition. If one makes it, we all make it by default. Agree and disagree. I definitely agree with you in the sense that, like, you shouldn't believe in micronational competition. If one makes it, we all make it, to the extent that, like, micronationalism gets a name, which is amazing. The thing I'm really concerned about, I don't want concerning micronations to get a name. Sometimes when we're talking about media exposure, when we're talking about the things that people gravitate to most, a lot of the time that's whoever's screaming the loudest, whoever's saying the most crazy, most attention-catching thing, whether it's right or wrong, whether it's good or bad. Kanye West going, on podcasts and stuff and saying like anti-Semitic stuff is super attention grabbing, and it covers media headlines. That doesn't make it the right thing. That doesn't make it, a great, that doesn't make him a role model for rap or for, even his own branding and PR for Kanye West. So in a similar fashion, micronationalism has a problem with that, where if we aren't careful, the micronations who will become most popular are either going to be the most silly micronations, or on the other hand, the most extremist micronations, which is a very large concern of mine, because once those micronations make it, then micronationalism has a very bad rap. And so people are either going to flee micronationalism because they're like, I don't want to be associated with that, or they're going to, try to find some way to make a distinction for themselves, which I also think is, here and there. So we have to be very careful with which micronations make it, for sure, because we want to associate ourselves with positive figures and images. But I do agree with you to the extent that success in micronationalism, for one, means success more generally. But that always comes with that caveat of who's getting the success, because it can be very dangerous. Zoroastrian Republic says around 250,000 Zoroastrians are left, but the religion is rising thanks to Ahura Mazda, God in Zoroastrianism. Very cool. Infinity Ultron. Oh goodness, somebody's been watching Marvel movies. Says micro charity should be called micro internationalism. I like that. I also think micro charity sounds cool. Aiden says it is what it is. Me and my friends randomly came up with the name Quaggington, then we made a country. Dope. I love it. Zoroastrianism says, AP, you asked how we've made so much money. We have done thanks to AI and programming. That's wonderful. What programming languages do you know? What kind of software have you developed? Fanta says this year my micronation will get an economy boost. Hey, very cool, Fanta. Also, Fanta, have you like subscribed to us? Do you know much about us? I haven't seen you before on the channel. It's good to see you, and I appreciate you hanging out with us. Aiden says it's pronounced Quaggington. I thought I had said it right, but I could have said it wrong, I guess. Let me know. Infinity, thank you, Aiden. Infinity Ultron says micronations, if threatened, has the right to build militias. They don't have the right to. You know what I mean? Like, it depends on what country you're in the United States, people have the right to bear arms. That's not the case in every country. So certainly, in plenty of micronations would not have the right to build militias at all. But also, the term militia has a negative connotation to it in most circumstances. I think in just about all circumstances, it has the connotation not even necessarily of being negative, but of being violent. And so you really, really want to be careful saying, you're starting a militia, because that can be interpreted as you're trying to fight somebody with arms, which is a bad thing to do, and I could never condone under almost any circumstances. Zoroastrian Republic says also the Republic is divided into. I certainly wouldn't do it. The Republic is divided into provinces: French province, Kurdistan province, UK province, and Italy province. Aiden says technically we are strong as Iceland, as none of us have an army. That's good. Yep, 100%. You shouldn't have an army either. Nautica says, not a huge militia, just mostly a police force to protect our people and nations when we move to protect us from wild animals. Wild animals makes more sense. I wouldn't attack people. Also, if you attack animals, make sure you're doing it in a way that's moral and legal. Eastern Valley says they're a Hellenistic micronation, because most animals just like avoid people. Sorbenia says, I gotta go, I'll be back. Good to see you, Sorbenia. Asmore says micronations should always be peaceful in nature, and if there must be war, then do it through a game tournament or Nerf gun, water park, etc. Agreed. You should definitely find like games and activities to do. The competitions in micronationalism are wonderful. I just think war is a negative thing. Manu says, ideally, a union is supposed to signify strength. If you don't want to work with another micronation, can you really complain about people not wanting to join yours? 100%. I completely agree. It's a very difficult concept, though. Again, I think it comes down a lot of time to ideology. People think different things are going to work, and so it's tough. It really is. But I agree with you, Manu. People should definitely be trying to find those ways to cooperate and those bonds that they have with each other. Theridian Broadcasting Network says our broadcasting network in the moment is as a pause, but soon we hope to record videos of national announcements for the Republic Theory in the future. Hey, very cool. Glad to hear from you, President O'Sullivan. Christian says, I concur. If there really must be disputes, these should be sorted out through diplomacy and tactful discussion first and foremost. Agreed. USR says, if I'm going to completely honest, I would say UASR Armed Forces is 99% just for ceremonial guard, and a lot of micronations do that too. They say, well, our military is ceremonial in nature and is, about our culture, which again is fine. I just think people who don't know about micronationalism would be significantly concerned if you said, and we have a militia, because that can mean people killing each other in the streets when people think of militia. Manu says, or like armies or anything. Manu says, what people need to do is actually talk to each other and find out what actions could benefit both. Agreed, Manu. I think you're 100% right about that. Asmore says, that is good, and every micronation is entitled to a, quote, royal guard. Again, you're saying like entitlements and rights. Micronations don't have any clear defined rules for entitlements or rights. There just isn't. It depends on where you live and what government you're currently under macronationally. Republic of Unity says we don't have political parties. Hey, very cool. I personally am not a big fan of political parties, so I think that's cool. But I'm curious to hear how that's benefited or hurt your nation as a democracy or as a republic. USR says, my nation is not religious. However, I'm personally Orthodox Christian, but I would never force my religion on others. That makes sense. Torrance says he likes religious micronations. He says King Mania is secular with a separation from church and state, but the Crowned Republic is not godless. Freedom of and from religion with a spiritual connection. Oh, interesting. So he's saying he supports people's right to practice their religion. Christian Show says, and I specifically mentioned the 1400 CE because, like Constantinople, I feel as though we are blooming culturally and politically, but lacking in resources and funds. That's tough. That's a tough situation to be in, and I think that's one of the constraining factors of micronationalism in general. But I hope with Primario and Aeternia we can work together and we can hopefully find a way to boost each other's economic potential. Eastern Valley says, I am unable to find micronation for Hellenism. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. But it seemed like there was, well, I thought there was a, like, were you the one that said you were starting the Hellenistic Republic, or was that someone else? Christian says, much like the Byzantines were surrounded by the might of the Ottoman Sultanate, we are surrounded by the United States. Very true. And that also affects your culture, affects, what you can do, and of course, your economics. Manu says micronational organizations have so much potential to be like micronations of micronations because they're both voluntary but seem to have a bad reputation of doing this sort of UN roleplay. Uh, I think that's the problem, though. If micronational organizations are the micronations of micronations, then you're getting worse, right? Because the idea of a micronation is to eventually, I think for most people, to ascend to be a macronation, to be just considered a country like any other country. For example, one of the big standards of that is being accepted by the UN. If you get a seat at the UN, of course your nation is recognized world over, and it has a lot of authority then to do things like vote in UN votes, like it has certain rights that are protected by the UN, and it is again recognized worldwide. So that being the case, if your micronational organization is a micronation of micronations, then it means that it's not even recognized by micronations. It's not fully supported by micronations. So I don't think that's necessarily a good thing. I'm not sure that that's what you meant. Thinking about it more, I don't think that's what you did mean, but that's my fault for the interpretation. But I would say that it's interesting because I do think that hits on something. When you're developing these, you are niching down further. You're saying, uh, I'm going to. You're not niching down further. You are subdividing your potential further. You're saying instead of this one nation working on this project to advance itself, we're going to take some of our resources and supply it to these other nations who also don't have enough resources to further themselves. And the concept is, well, if everybody pools their resources, we can further something. But a lot of the time, when one micronation isn't, uh, you know, able to hold it, to tread water, so to speak, to develop further independently, it makes it harder for it to do much for the rest of these groups. So at a certain point, you really have to work hard to make something of value there. And I think there are potentially better ways to do it. Um, USR says the nation I know is not very active. I think they might have disbanded. Uh-oh, I'm sorry to hear. Aiden says, yeah, I did it for the chocolate. Hey, very cool. Oh goodness. Chocolate is delicious. The specific nation that you said you were attacking. Oh, good. Not Swiss. Swiss chocolate's a thing too. Belgian chocolate. Very cool. Uh, USR says evil Belgian waffles. Is that why you did it? You hate the waffles? Harris says, and please follow me, Republic of Eternia. We are the Empire of Eternia. We're not a republic, but I appreciate it. Manu says, micronations can have meanings to decide what they can work towards in their goals, and organizations can do the same thing, but on a larger scale. Um, Agreed, but they have to have the resources independently to be able to further something, in my opinion. Um, UASR says, nah, UEM and UMEC is definitely not going to be in any joint op. UMEC sees itself as higher than other nations, while UEM is very open and active organization that isn't as strict. Oh, interesting. Yeah, that's a big problem too in micronationalism gatekeeping. There are a ton of micronations who are like, we're better than you, so we're not going to talk to you type of thing. I think that's stupid and the wrong way to go about it. But there are plenty that do it, so good luck to them. We got about 10 more minutes, guys. I'm just bringing this up so that you guys don't get shocked when we're all of a sudden dipping. But I appreciate it. Tiffany's going to walk out of class and then I'll have to go. But I'm hanging out now. Let me see how fast I can breeze through these comments. Um, Asmore said that micronations should have like a loose confederation instead of like coming all together. And I'm not sure that I agree with that, but I definitely understand. And that's a solid argument. Prakal says hello. Prakal, I didn't see you in here. Hey, it's good to see you. He said his internet's finally back. I'm glad to hear. Um, Christian said, funny that Emperor AP is not familiar with Hellenism, given how many strongly Hellenistic elements are present in Aeternia's symbolism. I completely agree. We do have a lot of symbolism that is connected to Greece and Greek culture, ancient Greek culture. But you're right, 100%. Again, the term Hellenism was something that, because I haven't looked at ancient Greek culture and writings and stuff in a while, has just flew out of my head. But yeah, that is a little bit of a silly thing on my part. Maybe I need to do my homework. Torrent says competition is good, greed is bad. I agree. Eastern Valley says I'm the same person. AP. Oh, okay. My apologies. So then you are pushing this Hellenistic idea, and I appreciate that. As a society that has gained a lot from Hellenism, I can appreciate that. As Christian Wall reminded me. Asmore says my nation was basically built around our flag and playing nation states website game. Hey, very cool. I know a lot of people like that. I was introduced to that pretty early on in micronationalism. I never got super into it, but I know that there are a lot of big fans of it. Prokal says competition can be a good thing. Agreed. Uh, uh, Torrance says AP competition is good, greed is bad. Um, Christian says, I agree, competition drives innovation and self improvement, but conflict is bad. Agreed. Torrance says, Dominion, we are all radicalized by nation states. Yep. UASR says, when the UASR was first made, it was known as the PRA, and I had never heard of micronations before, just had the idea. Very cool. Eastern Valley hates extremism. I get that. UASR says, I feel like Redshanks is kind of like that. He says extremist things for attention. I'm not sure who that is. RX says newspaper better than electricity media. I don't know about that. Electric media, I don't know about that. Micronationalism sadly must find a common ground of the two to develop a peaceful light. Interesting. Interesting take. Um, Manu says fleeting micronationalism in quotes. I wonder if there's someone in particular who'd come to mind. Ooh, got him. Fleeing micronationalism. Manu's making a Stamaria meme. Got him. Uh, UASR says we have some basic paper bills, but they are low quality. Infinity Ultron says thanks for being the first guy to recognize my name. Of course, I got you. In game's pretty cool. Aiden said you're getting better at saying it. I'm trying to. Goodness, it's hard to comprehend when first looked at. Agreed, agreed. It is a little. A lot of micronations are like that. People will say, "Hey, my micronation is," and it'll be like 20 characters long, and I'm like, "Oh gosh." I'm going to butcher it. Nautica says, we know AP just as a backup to keep us safe. Uh, I got you, Nautica. Sorbinia says, I'm back. Hey, it's good to see you, Sorbinia. We missed you. Torrance says, tips for micronation projects. Do not mission a militia or military until you have recognized territory. Even then, I don't think you should. It's just not a good idea. You should definitely think about security of your project, but you do not have a military. Uh, I I don't think you should do any of that. Republic of Nautica says same half of all of our official militias just roll up protection guard. Yeah, yep. Eastern Valley says yeah, it was me who was talking about Hellenism. Michael Ryan says, can any militia seriously compete with the nation's forces? No. I saw an ex-military guy destroy something like a dozen airsoft players. Micronational militias would be a joke in real-world conflicts. Completely agree, and that's why you shouldn't do that. Micronationalism has so much opportunity and benefit for it that we shouldn't ruin it with, trying to take ourselves too seriously as to physically, become violent with people. That's not appropriate or okay, and it doesn't support our cause in my case at least, and I think in most micronationals' case. Torrance Kingman says, Nautica, you going the legal entity route? I would clarify its person. Okay. I'm going to get out of those details. They're talking about, militias again. Um, Unity says it does not hurt as much because citizens do come and go as they do not sign sign the yearly goals to remain citizens. Hey, I like that. That's something interesting that I haven't heard before. Like a yearly reach out. What they're saying, they post a list of goals. It sounds like, and then all their citizens sign it to agree whether they're continuing their citizenship. That's kind of cool. It's like a yearly subscription. Like, hey, do you agree to keep going? I do like that because a lot of time nations will find citizens become just completely inactive, and that's a big problem for micronations. So having something like that where people are actually, working toward it is really cool. Um, and regularly like checking in with their citizens. That seems like a great way to do it on like a particular day as well. Like you could have a celebration of it, and then maybe you would get even some old citizens back who may have fell off throughout the year. It would also just promote those people who had been there, especially if you like celebrated them for being, this person signed it the last 5 years in a row or whatever. Torrance says, so you have a national club airsoft team? Okay. Zoroastrian Republic says, we have applied for UN membership 2 months ago. We got a reply saying that our application is, quote, being reviewed. So yeah, I'm hoping for the best. Good luck. That was very cool. Prokal says, I watch tons of airsoft videos. Arc24 says, Eric, airsoft is a good sport. Sadly, people don't commonly recognize. Okay, they're talking about war simulation and stuff. Let me try and get to any comments that are on the Paradox real quick before we have to go. Manu says, I said micronation to micronations in the sense that they're similar in a way that they are administered by their members. I agree with that 100%. They're using all of these micronations to try and create one larger micronation in effect. But I think the issue with that is they're developing a micronation as an organization that is very internally competitive, and I think that's the issue. Is they are incentivizing the concept. Excuse me, I have a runny nose. They're incentivizing the concept that you have to, uh, there are limited resources and everybody's trying to pool their resources. And this is an organization where everybody's, because I assume fairly democratic, everybody's on about equal standing. So you're constantly trying to like up your rep a little more. So you have a little bit better sway in, if there are 10 nations that are deciding on how to use your currency, the portion of the pot that you've put in, the portion of the funding that you've given, you want to have as much sway as you can to put that money where you'd like it to go. And so everybody has a different opinion on that. The more influential micronations, the more powerful micronations in the group will have more sway. So it makes them, internally competitive, I think, a lot of the time. And I think that can be an issue that happens in micronational organizations where there will become a line drawn in the sand, one particular argument that, gets a lot of disagreement, and eventually nations leave the union or the organization because they feel like they weren't listened to or heard or respected or whatever, and it starts causing problems. Manu says, but there's differences, I suppose. I agree. Elijah says, what is Hellenism? Support and belief in ancient Greek religions and culture. Specifically, I think religion, like the pantheon of gods. Elijah Wood said, but apparently it also connects to Greek paganism, which is interesting. UASR says it's like Greek paganism. Manu says even if there are things you can't do, you can still try stuff with what you do have. Aeternia itself has changed a lot over the years, especially in an economic sense. I completely agree. Manu knows this. Manu's been here for years. When we first started Aeternia, we were doing live streams like on Minecraft. We were doing live streams, and not to say that I wouldn't still do that because I absolutely would if I had the internet to do it. But we were doing a lot of things just to try to get something out there, to try and talk about these ideas, to try and see who was out there to make connections with. And it worked pretty well. We always had a route that we were trying to go, but that route, of course, changed. That route developed and molded, and I learned a lot of things over time. When we initially started out, we were trying to bring everybody into the big tent, saying all ideas are welcome. Anybody that wants to do anything, jump on in here. And then we had to start refining. We had to start deciding, okay, well, what's actually going to be the most beneficial to us? What is, with our limited time and resources, what's the best thing to put our efforts toward? And that ultimately, I think, is part of the problem. People try to find shortcuts in micronationalism. People try to find a way to speed off and do the thing that they want to do and to get the results that they want to get because they're frustrated with how long it's taking to do very small amounts of progress, to move the needle just a little bit. And ultimately, that I think becomes more of a downfall than anything. When you try to look for shortcuts, when you're trying to find the ways to do things, all right now instead of taking the time to develop your plan and see it through, you end up in a situation where you're not getting very much help. You're not able to really make a difference for yourself. And that ends up scattering micronational efforts because similarly to these organizations, similarly to the conflict that happens between nations, if you are taking all of your time and you're spreading it between 10 different things, it's going to be very difficult for you to get anything done. So as you narrow your focus and as you try to figure out what's most important for your nation, try and find those people who align with your interests and work with them and know that that will help you, but also be wary of putting your efforts into something that may not give you as high a return. Again, that's something that's very difficult because this whole time we've been talking about the concept of needing to give your support to other nations. It's important that we all work together to build each other, which is absolutely true. But there is also that selfish aspect of it. There is that internal aspect of, well, but I have a limited amount of time. If I can only spend 3 hours a week on my micronation or 10 hours a week on my micronation or whatever, then I want to make sure that I get the most out of that so that next week we have a little bit more than we did the week before, and so on and so forth. And so that becomes a hard task to grapple with, whether to spend that time supporting a larger group of micronations or your own individual interests. And there's not always a right or wrong answer. It's just about how you see the development of the community and your people. Sarmenia says on the topic of the website map, I've done this. I've before this video sent an update for my flag, but I am willing to send it again. My apologies, Sarmenia. Now that you've told me that, again, I'm sure you've told me in the past. 1,000 apologies for that, sincerely. I haven't been looking at it. It's been my fault. I've been busy with other things, but um, uh, I can't say tonight for certain because I do have stuff to do. But pretty quickly, I will be looking into that, and I'll be trying to update more people, specifically because you've told me. I'll put it into my mind, Sorbenia, when I'm going through it, look for Sorbenia's application, and put that in. The same thing with Nautica. I know Nautica has done it several times and asked me, repeatedly, and they've been good about it. They've been thoughtful, and have continued to remind me. And so I want to make sure to do that for you guys. Again, I apologize. Don't feel bad at all. Don't feel like you're doing anything wrong. It's just me needing to update my stuff. So we will get it. It'll just take some time. Thank you for your patience in that. Manu says, and quote, actions don't necessarily have to be sending stuff to people. You can spend some of your time doing something together. I completely agree. Friendship is a huge thing in micronationalism. When we covered the Dracul-Sycoldia relations issue, these two micronations, which were literally like next door neighbors, like right next to each other, they lived in the same town, they developed a lot of the same way and had a lot of opportunity with each other for a time. They're now back together and working together, but for a time they were separated. They didn't want anything to do with each other. They were mad at each other because of their own conflicts of interest. They had very conflicting ideals and morals. And so seeing them get so close to each other that they hard diverted and split from each other and became almost enemies for a very short period of time was something that was surprising. It took, I think, a lot of people by, it shocked a lot of people, but it also really showed that that's something that's easy to happen in micronationalism. And so on the opposite side of that, the more that you can cultivate those friendships and the more that you can improve and empower yourself to be supported by other people and to support other people, you will see major gains from that. Again, it just depends on what your strategy is and what you feel like it's the best use of your time. Um, RX24 says the Grand Paradox. Have you brought it up in an official Reddit thread or other form of medium? So I posted this in the Micronation subreddit. If you guys are in the Micronation subreddit and you like this concept, please get people to come and check out this video. Please get people to hop into our live streams because I've talked about it before on the channel. I want to talk about it a little more now. Again, I would recommend just jump into it. Like this is already a link on the Micronation subreddit r/micronations. If you go and upvote it and tell people you should watch this, what do you guys think of this? Or if you write a comment describing what your thoughts on it are, your opinions on it, please let me know. Because I'll be checking the subreddit to see how it's doing. Sometimes our posts do better. A lot of the time, that's not really our spot. People, for one reason or another, don't really like our posts a ton. But if you guys support that and you show that this is an important thing, maybe people will start to pick it up and talk about it more. I really want to see what happens with this. So thank you, Arik. I hope that happens. I hope that people support it. Prakal says, see ya. Hey, see ya, Prakal. Thank you for supporting us. Thank you for spending some time with us this evening. Manu says, and of course, what I'm promoting includes talking about it first. We obviously have to be smart about this and not make decisions we'll probably regret later. 100%. Again, it's based on your strategy and what you think is the best development of your time. If you are a micronation that has very little to offer, you may want to spend some time internally developing so that when you go to other groups and organizations, you can say, look at all the things I have to offer. But if you spend too much time doing that, you may not have enough time to build up your connections with other nations. So, pros and cons. Um, Arix says also maybe write it down as a talking point at MicroCon or other similar gatherings. Agreed. Again, I have talked about this before. It's something that I've been working on personally for the last few years. So I've thought about this plenty. I've talked about it in probably 30 different streams, live streams. I have talked about it, and made specific videos on the topic. So I definitely recommend you guys go check those out. But I will make another one. I'll make another specifically edited video about it. I'll write it down. I'll post it in the subreddit. But for right now, please, guys, talk about this in the subreddit. Like let people know that this video exists and that we have been talking about this. And please post your thoughts in the comments of that Reddit post. It is a link to this video, and it says something like. The Paradox of Micronations, or Micronational Paradoxes, or something. And it's by us, the Empire of Aeternia. Zoroastrian on r/micronations. Zoroastrian Republic says micronations must be sovereign and independent. They must work for themselves and not be part of an organization at the same moment. I can definitely see that strategy. It's something that's tough because a lot of the time you have really conflicting interests between different groups, and so a lot of time it can be better to go your own route, but not necessarily. There are plenty of situations in which you will see a micronational organization in which all of the members are, especially the higher up members, are more well known than those that are going their individual route. And so it really is dependent on what you're focusing and what you think, what your focus is, what you think will do the best in the short term for your country. Well, short and long term, because again, it's your investments. Zoroastrian Zoroastrian Republic said at the same moment independence is declared. Agreed. That is one thing. Micronations will jump into like organizations or even joining other micronations as they like declare their independence, and that is something that, for example, if you're sending an application to the UN, may look a little bit confusing. I'm not sure how hard they look into things like that, but that is a thought. Zoroastrian Republic says, so Arik says, oh, don't forget we found out how to make Roman concrete. Hey, very cool. I appreciate it. Michael Ryan says, good night, Emperor AP, be well. Good night, Michael Ryan. I hope you're doing well. And thank you for spending time with us. We got a few more minutes. Tiffany's still in class, so I imagine they're doing some finishing up stuff. But just for us to kind of get a well-rounded conversation out and finish discussing, for me, this paradox really comes down to, and the more modern approach that I've been trying to take to it and understanding it is, it really is a ratio that you constantly want to look at with your nation. And this is a video that I want to make specifically so that people can have a metric, like a number to keep in mind, some way that they can measure this, how successful they are at fighting this paradox effectively. And so that's the concept that I want to talk about. I've been thinking about it in my sense for my development and for Aeternia's development as my own philosophical, like logical development in this concept, but as well for Aeternia's practical growth and application of it as a ratio. So you constantly want to balance the amount of time you spend internally on your micronation with the amount of time that you spend externally on, supporting other nations, other groups, things like that. The problem is that in one way or another, the further that it effectively comes down to your impact. You can spend a lot of time on something internally, for example, and it make a significant amount of impact. And then you can spend a lot of time on something external and it make very little impact, or vice versa. You may be very popular on the internet, for example, and post a lot of things and make a lot of things, and that become very popular. But internally in your nation, it may take you a very long time to make any progress. So, that being the case, those types of dilemmas are the things that build that ratio. How much progress you can make externally versus internally should be that ratio. And the further away from one you are, whether moving into fractions as you approach zero, if you are spending a lot more time um, internally than you are externally, you're going to be approaching zero as your fraction gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And that's a bad thing because it means that you're very isolated as a micronation. You are able to potentially do a lot, but you're stifled by how much reach you have in the world. So there's a big limit to your nation there. Vice versa, if you're starting to approach infinity on the other side and you're starting to get these huge, huge numbers because you're spending a lot of time externally, but not a lot of time internally, you may be over spreading yourself. Your efforts may be overly spread and uh, overly weakened because you are putting a lot of things out into the world, but um, they're having very little impact on the ability of your own nation. So you're stifling yourself by the opportunity you can actually present as a nation to others. If your nation has a well-known name, if you're recognized as a brand, but you aren't actually able to provide something with that brand, then there is a lot of limitation there. So I think that ratio should always be something that you're kind of uh, trying to develop and trying to progress. And I think, as of what I've seen right now, the closer that you can keep that to the number one, the better it is. Um, and again, I'll talk about that in a future video. But if you guys do want to support this, please go and check out our post on the subreddit, and go and check out our Instagram post about it, our Twitter post about it that we did today. Let me know. Christian says, wow, I just noticed it getting dark where you are. It's spooky how night seems to just sneak up on people. I completely agree. Well, it's a thing where as the lights were as it was getting darker out, as the sun was going down, these street lamps started lighting up, I think, at the same time. So there was like a window of time where it was getting darker, but you couldn't really tell it was getting darker because these street lamps were getting brighter. So it was kind of like mitigating it. So there was maybe, 30, 45 minutes of our conversation here where you couldn't tell too much, even though it was getting darker with natural light, it was getting brighter with artificial light. So it was hard to tell the difference on camera. I could notice, but it wasn't a great talking point for the video. But yeah, I could notice it a little bit better. It did sneak up though. Like now that it's dark, you can tell. You can tell quite a bit. Even right now, it's my perspective shows it as a lot darker than what it looks like on camera. Because on camera, you can see there's still some stuff lit up and cars moving in the background. Um, it is not. It is not that easy to see. In my view, it's still very bright, but it looks more exaggerated on camera, I feel. Republic of Unity says good night, AP. Hey, good night, Republic of Unity. I hope you're doing well. And again, thank you for spending some time with us. It means a lot. We have 25 likes right now, you guys. We have 12 viewers currently, and that's like the dip off of the stream, which I appreciate. We had up to, I think, 26 viewers at one point, which is incredible. We surpassed the 25 we were talking about. And so I'm impressed and I appreciate it. Tiffany's here, guys, so I gotta head out. But
for a second, I thought that white car up there was yours.
yes.
And then I was like, no, that's not him. I was a good panic. I noticed the Honda symbol, and I was like, oh, not that car.
Not us. Give me 1 second. I'm on stream real fast.
I know.
I appreciate you guys. I hope you're doing well. If you want to say hi to Tiffany, she's right here. And I appreciate you guys. Again, thank you so much for spending time with us. We made some big progress today, and I hope the conversation felt like it was exciting for you guys. I felt like I learned a lot from you. I appreciate you all. I can't wait to see the development of your nations in the future. And as always, Aeternia forever. See you guys later. Night Sarmenia, night Unity, night Christian, night Empress Alicia, if you guys are still on. Good night Torrance. Good night, everybody. Ooh, good night, Utreya.